Many people claim the Cleveland Browns know absolutely nothing about drafting. They've drafted draft bust after draft bust after draft bust. But finally, they might have got a pick right. Meet the Cleveland Browns Pro Bowler, Joe Schobert. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is RCFL here, and today we're going to be making a video on up-and-coming linebacker Joe Schobert. Now, Schobert was one of the best linebackers in 2017, leading the entire NFL in tackles with 144. Yet, no one seems to know about him because, well, he's on Cleveland. Most of the people think Cleveland is a place where a career dies, but this is certainly not the case for Joe. Schobert was born and raised in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and was a stud athlete as far as his father could remember. Joe attended high school at Waukesha West, where he played mainly at tailback and safety, as well as being a return man and sometimes getting some plays in at wide receiver. Now, Joe also excelled in many other sports, lettering in baseball, basketball, track, while coming in third in the whole state for the high jump as a senior. This dude was a monster. He literally showed that he had the athletic ability to play just about any sport. Now, football, though, was his main sport, as getting to the NFL was his biggest dream. So, guys, in his early high school career, I was unable to find too much information about his freshman and sophomore year, since I could only find the varsity stats at his high school. But as a sophomore, he was a wide receiver, and he had 3 receptions for 38 yards, no defensive stats recorded at all. As a junior, he became the starting running back on a state championship football team, and he was an absolute star, taking Wisconsin by storm, rushing for 2,442 yards on 308 carries, scoring 28 touchdowns. Now, during the season, he averaged 174.4 yards per game, which is absolutely insane. Now, receiving-wise, Joe also had 8 catches for 200 yards and also put up another 3 touchdowns, totaling 31 touchdowns during his career. Defensively, his stats weren't shown, other than starting in all 14 games that season. In the state championship as a junior, he set the game record, rushing for 296 yards on 38 carries. Then, as a senior, he ran for 1,452 yards and 23 touchdowns. Receiving, he had another 215 yards and 7 catches with another touchdown. And once again, he started defensively in every single game, but had no recorded stats on the website that I found. I could, searching up his stats, I could literally find almost nothing. I'm sorry, it took me a whole hour until I found this, so I'm sorry about that, guys, but let me continue. So despite all of his success, he received no scholarships, was not even close to being nationally ranked, and the college he wanted to go to so badly, Wisconsin, showed no interest in him. So right as his dream was almost over, he was then told that he could attend the University of North Dakota, who was a Division I FCS team at the time, as a walk-on. Later, Joe was invited to play in the WFCA All-Star Game, where he played absolutely terrific. This game was a chance where all the best players in the state could show off their talents to college scouts, but yet Joe was not one of the players that the scouts were looking at. In this game, though, he had 145 all-purpose yards, 2 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and an interception. This tremendous performance led Jed Kelly, a coach from another school, contacting the University of Wisconsin, landing Joe to join the team as a walk-on. Now, the funny thing about this is that Joe and his family were moments away from heading to camp at North Dakota, but then they received a call saying to switch their destinations. As soon as Joe arrived at camp in Wisconsin, his coaches became very impressed with his hard work ethic and loved his enthusiasm about the game of football. Joe's coach said that he was very impressed on how Joe did not want a redshirt and wanted to start playing his freshman year. Then in 2013, he got a chance. In 10 games, Joe had 24 tackles, 1 sack, and 3 pass defenses. Then, going into 2014, he stepped up to being a starter. He recorded 54 tackles, 11 for loss, 5 pass defenses, and 2 forced fumbles. Although Joe was making a pretty big impact, it wasn't too much to receive any recognition from any major NFL teams or scouts. But that would all change in 2015, Joe's senior year. In this year, in 13 games, Joe recorded 76 tackles, 20 tackles per loss, 2 pass defenses, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception. Also, he had a 57-yard run on a fake punt versus Maryland to cap it all off. Now, this run also showed Joe's athletic ability. It showed his speed. It showed everything that you would look for in a defensive player.
For 15 on third down last week, and they converted their first. Looking for a conversion here. And they've got it and more. Boy, what a start to this game, huh?
In 2015, Joe was an elite defensive force in college football. His tremendous campaign led him to be first-team All-Big Ten, first-team All-American, and win the Buckus Fitzgerald Linebacker of the Year award. This sparked an invite to the NFL Combine. His combine was decent as he ran a 4.76 40, had a 33.5-inch vertical, he benched 22 reps and had a broad jump of 111 inches, which I mean is decent as a linebacker. Now, his draft profile going in, he was projected to go into the 3rd or 4th round, and his strengths were listed as adequate man cover skills, slippery movement to slide through gaps in the offensive line, and can trib edge as a rusher with a shoulder dip. Now, his disadvantages listed that he had a lack of overall size, average athleticism, and a must-edge rush protection, which came on extended plays below average speed. Basically, they were calling him too little and not fast enough as a linebacker. But after this, we all know what happened next. The 99th overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns selected Joe in the early 4th round. This would lead to a spot on Cleveland's roster. Now, most people would think that Joe's career would go down the drain, as I mentioned earlier, and that might have been true. In 2016, during Joe's rookie campaign, he rarely received any playing time, only recording 28 tackles, half a sack, and 1 pass defense. But this was because he was in the wrong position. During his 2016 season, Joe primarily played outside linebacker, but Joe was more of a middle linebacker, and this change would be made in the training camp of 2017. Once Joe made the switch, he was one of the most dominant defensive players. Yet, he's unknown. He recorded 144 tackles, which led the NFL, had 3 sacks, 4 pass defenses, 1 pick, and 3 forced fumbles. He was also ranked the number 1 run-stopping linebacker in the entire NFL, and he was one of 3 players, as I said earlier, to play every defensive snap in 2017. So, once again, why is Joe underrated? In this year, Joe absolutely dominated. He showed his cover skills, his ability to stop the run, and his pass rushing skills, establishing himself as one of the most underrated players in 2017. Drafting Joe was a move in the right direction for Cleveland, and combined with defensive forces, Myles Garrett and Christian Kirksey. Will the Browns become dangerous? Will Joe become the force that puts Cleveland back on the map?
Keenum had it tipped at the line, popped in the air, and intercepted by the Browns. 45 inside the 40 is middle linebacker Joe Schobert in the first break of the day.